It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Yes, back from one of my trips, joined once again, like I was last week and like I am every Thursday, by Bruce Kuntz. Bruce, it's good to see you. I was gone for the last, 6 days, and I came back into service, saw them hit a walk-off win. I don't know what everybody's so panicked about.
It's funny because even though the only way that I know that when you're not here is keeping up with the other DodgerHead shows, but it feels like the last couple of weeks we'll hop on and you'll say, yeah, I've been gone. And I'm like, it's business as usual for me. I see you every Thursday and that part hasn't changed.
Yeah, I think in my last two trips, the Dodgers are like 1-9 or something like that on days that I've been gone. So I don't know. They win. I don't think I've seen them lose in a couple of weeks. I don't know. There seems to be panic around the fridges, Bruce, but I don't know what that is all about.
I've been getting a lot of blame lately for being at the games. I know that's started to be something that at least the official Dodger Blue account has replied to me a couple times like it's my fault, but maybe it's your fault too, Jeff. Maybe it's just the Thursday night show that is dragging the team down with our own actions.
Totally. Well, and I have bad news because I have one more trip coming up next week. So hopefully things don't go as poorly. I will miss next Thursday's show, but that is neither here nor there. Tonight, we have a jam-packed show for you. So thanks to everybody who's joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. And by the way, people joining us live on YouTube, if you have not already, please subscribe, ring the notification bell. We are inching closer and closer to 90,000 subscribers, trying to get there by the end of the month. So please join us. We would love to have you join us live on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sunday nights. And by ringing the notification bell and subscribing, you get those notifications and it pops up in your feed that we're going to be live depending on the time. So go ahead and do that. Spread the word. Tell your friends. We'll greatly appreciate that. But plan for tonight is going to be a fun one. We're going to kind of pause ahead of the trade deadline, which is a week away, and do a state of the Dodgers. We're going to look at the three major areas. We're going to look at the rotation, the bullpen. I know, trigger warning on the Dodgers bullpen. And then the offense and say, what does this position group look like now? What are the key injury updates that we need to know about, health updates, prognosis of guys when they may or may not return? And also, who are some of the names that might be available at the trade deadline, and would the Dodgers be interested in those players? So that's the goal. We'll do odds and ends, talk draft picks that have been signed, and we got a really fun prospect corner for you at the end as well before, as always, question and answer. So if you've got a super chat, go ahead, throw that in there. We'll get to your question as quickly as possible. But let's just dive in to the state of the Dodgers, Bruce, and let's start with positive news. Good news first, maybe bad news second. Let's start with the Dodgers rotation, which I would suggest, Bruce, is a position that I feel pretty good about. We're going to get into the specifics, but when I say Dodgers starting pitching, do you get warm fuzzies inside right now?
Oh, yeah. When we talk about the Dodger rotation, this is the number one place on the team that makes me feel like this is 100% a World Series caliber roster. Whether the bullpen is struggling, whether the offense struggles, you always can look back at the rotation. And at least for me, it gives me a lot of confidence. They're getting healthy, and you already just have such a great assortment of names that it feels like the rotation is the one place on the team that it feels sort of similar to where we were preseason going in and talking about like potentially the greatest roster of all time, and things have gone haywire elsewhere, but the rotation still feels like it's kind of in that sort of area.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think as we're going to get to, there's areas of concern, and I know we're not allowed to believe in Dodgers starting pitchers getting healthy. And yet, when you do the math on some of these things, we're starting to feel good. Let's get to some super chat. AI's 1839, been riding with you guys since the 2020 postseason. Much love for all the great work you do. God bless. We appreciate it. AI, 2020. We've seen 2 World Series since we started the show at the beginning of the 2020 season. So it's been a good run for us. Carlos says, Bruce, any updates on Josue de Paula's apparent knee injury? Do you know anything about this?
No, I don't have any updates here. He exited the game with Great Lakes, and that's kind of just a wait and see situation. Hopefully, we'll find out some information soon with the trade deadline coming up, and prospect lists will be updated. And that's usually when little nuggets of information will be dropped in on injuries.
Aaron says, give us the lottery numbers, Jeff. May is totally getting traded. There's too much smoke around him. Where there's smoke, there's fire. We're going to get to that. A report from Ken Rosenthal, who gave some credence to, look, again, we don't nail all of our bold predictions at the beginning of the year. I predicted Dustin May might get traded by the deadline. So we've got a week for make or break stuff there. But stay tuned. We're going to talk Dustin May here in just a second. But I mentioned the rotation, and let's go through where they're at right now, Bruce, and why both of us, I think, are optimistic, even from a health perspective. We'll start at the top. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who, as for now, is still the Dodgers' #1 starting pitcher, I would say. Aside from the stinker in Milwaukee, his last 4 starts otherwise, 24 innings with just 2 earned runs, 12 hits allowed, and 29 strikeouts. So Yamamoto, again, one hiccup in Milwaukee aside, continues to be very great. How about Tyler Glasnow, since returning from the injured list? 18 innings, 9 hits, 2 earned runs, 23 strikeouts. Let's pause and talk Glasnow, because I know he is not a fan favorite, typically for reasons off the field, i.e. the amount of time he spends off of the field, Bruce. But we had talked on our show about how when this guy is available and when he is healthy and on the mound, he's unbelievable. That's what we've seen in the 3 starts since he came back.
Yeah, I never had any doubt with Tyler Glasnow, the performer. It's just a matter of getting him on the field. And I think that this is a good reminder for some of the people that I think his name was getting very cloudy just in the discussion around it due to how much he's missed with injuries. And that stuff aside, it's important to remember that when he's on the field, he's an absolute ace. And that's how he's pitching right now. That last game of his was just flat out excellent. And that's how he's looked since he got back from the injured list. I really have the utmost confidence. And people have started to look back at the Pepio trade, the Glasnow trade, and wonder if that was the right move. I still feel like that I'm all over it, regardless of Glasnow's health injuries and all those issues. When Tyler Glasnow's on the mound, the Dodgers feel good, and that's ultimately why they made the trade, and that's still where they are.
The people want to know, Bruce, is there an ice cream truck in your neighborhood parked outside your window? I mean, what kind of popsicle are we going to go get out there?
I wasn't sure if that was going to be coming through the microphone or not, but yeah, it's right out there.
All right. Shout out to ice cream trucks. Still on their grind, you know. Hey, everybody loves an ice. Now we all want ice cream. That's the only downside to this situation. I need to get me one of those like Super Mario things. We get some gumballs for buttons or something like this. My goodness, the ice cream truck. Absolute legendary stuff. So we've got Yamamoto, we've got Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, 3 innings pitched in back-to-back outings for him, pitch count up to 46. He's allowed just 2 earned runs in his last 12 innings pitched. So he's got that going for him. And then the other positive update here is Blake Snell. He is scheduled to pitch on Saturday for Oklahoma City. It will be in Reno. It will be his second appearance with the Comets. Dave Roberts has said the goal for him is to get to 5 innings and or 75 pitches. And if that's the case, he could potentially get back to the Dodgers by the end of next week. So some huge updates there, huge updates for the Spiegel family. My parents live in Reno and are going to be at the game on Saturday because Blake Snell is coming to town. So shout out to that. But again, Glasnow coming back has been awesome. Shohei Ohtani trending in the right direction, back-to-back starts of 3 innings and 46 pitches in his last one. And now Blake Snell, again, potentially on his way back. Bruce, when you hear the news about Blake Snell and how close he is, don't you kind of see the Dodgers starting rotation starting to become fully formed in the way that Andrew Friedman and company probably imagined it? Oh, we got the mic no mic so far from you. So we'll stay tuned on that one here for a second. But for me, I look at this and I see Yamamoto, I see Glasnow, I see Ohtani, and I see Blake Snell. And those are the 4 horses that the Dodgers have built their entire situation on. That's the situation. That's what the Dodgers imagined at the beginning of the season. Yes, there might be depth. Yes, there might be some other guys who can fill holes, and we're going to talk about Kershaw and Emmett Sheehan and Robleski and others. But the key for this Dodgers team, especially with the bullpen and the offense that we're going to talk about here in just a second, is Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani, and Snell being healthy. And so we'll try again with Bruce's mic here. There we go. I hear noise. So talk to me about Blake Snell and the Dodgers kind of pitching rotation coming to fruition here.
Yeah, things went off the rails right at the beginning of the year when Snell and Glasnow both went down. And at that point, it felt like we were going to be talking about the rotation the same way we're talking about the bullpen now and how everything was so disappointing. But we remained patient, and now the guys are getting healthy, and there haven't been setbacks like I know I was personally afraid of. The fact that Glasnow's back on the mound and Blake Snell's about to be is an absolute win for me, because there were times during that stretch where I wasn't sure if they were both going to be healthy at the same time this year. But with Snell getting back, you absolutely are at the point where the rotation feels oddly healthy, which is like crazy to say out loud.
Yeah.
And
are we allowed? I don't know if we're allowed to say that out loud. If you believe in jinxes, you're definitely not allowed to. I don't, though.
Yeah, it's a rotation full of aces, and Snell's absolutely part of that group. So getting him back is huge.
Speaking of aces, Bruce, the number 5 guy on this list is a gentleman by the name of Clayton Kershaw. Some folks may have heard about him. And you may have also heard that in his last 10 starts, wait for it, 2.64 ERA for surefire Hall of Famer and the GOAT, Clayton Kershaw. Whether this is sustainable or not remains to be seen. I know how everybody in the chat, basically except for me, feels about Clayton Kershaw potentially pitching in the postseason. But my goodness, has this guy been awesome. And I've said it before, like, you can look at the peripherals, you can say this isn't sustainable. I would tell you his entire career gives me more reason to believe it is sustainable than some of the underlying metrics. And so regardless, if this group gets healthy and Kershaw is your number 5, number 6 type starter, then the little amount of pressure that I feel like is on his shoulders anyways diminishes even more.
Yeah, Kershaw working as the number 5 starter from right now until the postseason, and we'll see whether he's on the postseason roster. If he's number 5, it would be hard to be, but the Dodgers would absolutely be happy with that because he's pitching really well. I have said it the last couple of weeks when we've talked about Kershaw. I don't think he's a 2.64 ERA kind of guy, but if it's
he's like a 2.04 ERA guy, right, Bruce? That's what you were going to say right there.
Yeah, I wish, but if we go the other direction, and even if he's in the mid 3s, like you'll take that every day of the week out of your number 5 starter, and I just have faith that he's going to go out and he's going to compete and he's going to give quality enough innings. And when you talk about Kershaw as the number 5, it really helps looking at the rotations now getting healthy. These guys really completing a great rotation will take some stress off the bullpen, because part of what I think has been the issue there is when you don't know exactly who's starting every 5th day, and a couple of the rotation spots wind up with short starts. If you've got a full rotation with Kershaw as the number 5, Snell in there as well, that's going to be pitchers that, even though Snell and Kershaw don't go particularly deep in games very often, they're usually not going to get blown up at the beginning. So that helps the bullpen a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of this conversation is not just that the top 4 guys seem to be trending towards health and that the 5th guy is Clayton Kershaw, who's been awesome. It's that when I ask you who's the number 6 starting pitcher for the Dodgers right now, there's like 4 healthy dudes that you could legitimately put in this spot. I think the guy at the top of the list for now is probably Emmett Sheehan, who did get roughed up in his last start against the Brewers, but in the 3 starts prior had allowed just 3 earned runs in 13 1/3. We've got Dustin May, who it's been recently announced is going to return to the rotation, at least until Blake Snell is back. He'll pitch against the Red Sox after allowing fewer than 2 runs for the first time since May 21st. Although he did allow 8 base runners and 4 2/3, so it wasn't exactly a good outing for Dustin May. You've got Justin Robleski, who hasn't been back in a few weeks after struggling against the Astros, but he had a 2.37 ERA in 30 innings in the month of May and June. So those are 3 healthy options in Sheehan, Robleski, and Dustin May. And then you've got Tony Gonsolin and Roki Sasaki with some injury updates. Tony Gonsolin has not started a throwing program yet. Dave says, quote, they'll have to make a decision soon. If that sounds ominous to you, I would say your instincts are probably right. That sounds like a week and a half away from, hey, Tony's been shut down for the remainder of the season. But on the other end, Roki Sasaki, 39-pitch bullpen on Wednesday, scheduled for one more bullpen session before then he would head to Camelback Ranch for some live batting practice. Dave Roberts described his progress, quote, as it's exciting. So you've got the 5 in Kershaw, but let's go to the next 3 before we get to the health updates. Sheehan, May, Robleski. We're going to do the Dustin May trade stuff in a second. So let's talk about May, the pitcher. I mean, when we discuss the number 6 spot and I tell you can choose between Emmett Sheehan, Dustin May, and Justin Robleski, I don't know what else I could say to make people understand how deep the Dodgers rotation is as of right now.
That is depth. And when we're about to talk about Dustin May being a potential trade candidate, that's because depth starting pitchers, whether you're a frontline guy, a mid-rotation guy, even just a back-end starter that can take the ball every fifth day and go out there and at least compete. That's what Dustin May is. He's not one of the aces that we're talking about in this rotation, but having him just as depth is incredibly valuable. And any team would like to have a guy like Dustin May this year to just fill out the rotation, give innings. Like you said, then it's two young guys of Emmett Sheehan. I have a ton of faith. I just gave in my bold takes last week saying that he could be part of the playoff rotation. Like I love Emmett Sheehan, and Justin Robleski has looked way better this year because of some pitch changes compared to his rookie year last year. And it's just a embarrassment of riches, which is not what I thought we'd be saying at this point in the year. And I'm glad that we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, even with the bad Gonsolin news, I don't think any of us are necessarily expecting anything from Roki Sasaki. But when we're talking about depth, like it doesn't hurt to at least think he might be available at the end of the season, because available doesn't mean he's automatically going to be used and on the playoff rotation. But I would love for the Dodgers to at least have the opportunity, the option to say to Roki Sasaki, hey, we need a few innings from you today, or hey, we're going to make you a reliever to close out the season and see what you can get. So when you look at the Dodgers, again, we're talking about 7 deep with Sheehan and Robleski, and then you've got Sasaki, then you've got Dustin May. That's 9. I would add Landon Knack, although he struggled at AAA. I wouldn't hate if I had to see him start a game at some point for the Dodgers in the next few months as well. So that leads us to the trade deadline conversation. And it's a fascinating one, Bruce, because the question is this: will the Dodgers be buying or selling starting pitching at the deadline? Ken Rosenthal making a note today in his article that a surprise option at the deadline might be that Dustin May is available. And it wasn't just a little small bullet point at the end of an article. It was an entire section talking about the depth of starting pitching the Dodgers have, the fact that he is going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and the fact that there are lots of teams who need starting pitchers right now. So if you had to guess, which is more likely, the Dodgers trading away somebody from their rotation depth or adding somebody into it?
Definitely more likely, I think, that they trade somebody away, and that somebody would be Dustin May. He's the only candidate that really makes sense. He is about to be a free agent, so he's not a guy you can option if you wind up needing to. These other guys like Robleski, even Emmett Sheehan, if it became absolutely necessary and the room was so crowded, you can send him down. Dustin May's kind of stuck. I still kind of feel like that it's more of a coin flip in my gut whether May gets traded or not. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I kind of placed my stake on the side that he wasn't going to get traded when we talked about it last week. That might not look the greatest right now, but I still just feel like that we're talking about this as a great problem to have, how much depth the Dodgers have. May is more proven than some of these other guys we're putting in that end of the rotation sort of conversation. And I don't think that they're going to go to the table and say, we need to trade Dustin May. They're not going to try to trade Dustin May, but if they get an offer that is really good and cannot refuse, then he's not a guy that they're going to be unwilling to part with either.
Yeah, and as Derek points out in the chat, Dustin May also out of options, so he cannot be sent down if needed. I think the interesting thing with Dustin May is threefold. One is they need to find somewhere to put him, because as we've pointed out, they cannot send him down to the minor leagues. And so at the beginning of the season, it was just assumed he would be in the starting rotation. I think a majority, I'll put this nicely, I think a majority of Dodger fans would take Emmett Sheehan over Dustin May. I think over 50% would probably take Justin Robleski over Dustin May in the rotation right now as well, although both of those guys can be sent down. And so for logistical reasons, they might not just simply choose the best starting pitcher. But the thing that I've pushed back on with Dustin May, Bruce, all along is I'm not ready to just pencil in that he would be effective as a reliever. I don't think that's as obvious and as sure of a thing as I think a lot of Dodgers fans have made it, where it's like, oh, well, look at his stuff, and surely 1 inning, 2 innings, make him a reliever, he'll be effective. We said the same thing about him being a starter. Look at his stuff, he'll be effective, and it hasn't worked. So that's where I'm at, is if you can't promise me he's going to be good and helpful and effective as a reliever, and you're telling me that he's probably 8th on the depth chart of starting pitchers currently healthy now, or will be healthy by the time the deadline rolls around, if you're telling me I can go get a lottery ticket, somebody that's I'm not, Mike Sirota now sounds crazy because of how high he's jumped in the prospect rankings. But when that trade was made, it was like, oh, here's this guy who was like a 3rd round pick last year and he might be a few years away. if there's a player out there that the Dodgers liked in last year's draft that maybe they can go acquire, like I'm just saying I'm interested in that type of move given the state of the Dodgers rotation depth.
So the question that I would ask regarding Dustin May, I think that the question that they have to ask themselves is what's more valuable to the team, having that insurance policy of a guy who's pitched in the big leagues for multiple years. And if all of a sudden all these injury prone guys who happen to be healthy right now, if 3 of them get hurt at once, then at least you have a guy who has the track record, isn't just a brand new big leaguer you might trust a little more. What's more valuable, getting an insurance policy, depending on if it's a seller's market, what kind of return are they going to get? Because they could get a return that's much better than Dustin May is as a starting pitcher, like flat out. If that's a seller's market, if they can get a great return, I think they'll be all over that. But having that insurance is valuable. And then, like you said, I completely agree. You got to be a good pitcher to be a good pitcher out of the bullpen. I'm not sure if Dustin May is a good pitcher right now. He's kind of middle of the road, and just shifting to the bullpen isn't going to change that because he doesn't have – the stuff jumps off the page, yes, but usually the guys that you're talking about that would go from starting to relieving and see a jump in that facet are guys that don't have a deep arsenal or struggle to throw strikes, and that's not necessarily his MO. The swing and miss stuff isn't there, and that would hurt him playing out of the bullpen. So I'm with you that I think that if he goes to the bullpen, it'll be like long relief. I don't see a way that Dustin May ends up being a short stint, like 1 inning guy.
Yeah, he doesn't miss bats. Like his problem all the time has been missing bats, which is the number one ingredient you are looking for in a back end high leverage relief pitcher is the ability, like when Alex Vesia comes in the other day with the bases loaded and nobody outs, now he gets a double play. But like what you're ultimately looking for is a guy who can get at least one of the next 3 outs without the ball being put in play, and hopefully 2 of the 3. Dustin May has not proven that he can do that. My question to you when it comes to the insurance policy is he a good enough insurance policy to even qualify as a insurance policy? Because yes, like if you come to the postseason, he's better than, like, all due respect to Brent Honeywell, trotting Brent Honeywell out there for like 3 innings in a postseason game or something like that. But how much better is he than that? Like I know the name brand, I know the stuff, but this is a guy whose ERA is like 5. And so I know he's an insurance policy, but are we sure he's like dramatically better than the 9th or 10th guy that the Dodgers might have in the organization without him?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, he might not be. I figure that the Dodgers, they know best because they know the guy. They brought him up. They've had him for all these years, and they'll know whether he's somebody that they think is going to pitch better than he has so far this year moving forward. Because if the answer is no to that question, if they just think like this is Dustin May, what he's been this year, then they should get rid of him because this isn't a guy that's going to be valuable for the Dodgers down the stretch or in the postseason. But the only way that they hold on to him is if they think that this is just struggles as he's finding his footing again and that he's about to get back to being the Dustin May that we expected coming into the year. Like I said, otherwise there's no reason to hold on to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before we move on to the bullpen, Carlos with the super chat, we appreciate it. He says, Bruce, can you explain the process of signing draft picks? I thought once we draft players, they become part of the organization.
Yeah, so the MLB draft is the most complicated professional draft that there is because of this specific issue. The biggest thing with the MLB draft is your bonus pool. You have a draft bonus pool that you have to divvy out among all your draftees in order to sign them. If you run out of money, then there's penalties if you go over the pool. So just simplifying all of it, where players are taken is just as much about signing bonuses and how much you have expected or expect to have in your signing pool as it is overall talent. So once the guys are drafted, almost never teams will sign their entire draft class, especially in the rounds of 10 through 20, where those draft values don't count towards the bonus pool. Complicated, but especially in those rounds, guys don't always get signed. But in the first 10 rounds, you have an assigned slot value for each pick that goes into your total bonus pool. So you're going to try and sign everybody in the first 10 rounds. If you don't sign somebody in the first 10 rounds, you lose that money. So it's really a waste. But then in the back 10 rounds, it's kind of just whatever because that money doesn't count towards the bonus pool. Basically, all about money, and it's very complicated. But the Dodgers signed some money on their first couple guys this year, so they should have a decent chance of a pretty big class this year.
And Carlos, the one thing I would add to Bruce's point about how complicated the MLB draft is, it's the only professional draft where guys can get drafted and then go back to school or go to school for the first time. And so if they draft a high school kid, they are basically negotiating against the college where that kid is committed to. If they draft a junior in college, they are negotiating against the fact that that player could choose to go back for his 4th year of college, if they draft a JUCO kid. Like, you got the point in all of this. And so the players have far more leverage to negotiate in the MLB draft than they do in any other draft. Because Shamar Stewart, if you're following the NFL, is a first-round pick who has not signed with the Bengals, and the Bengals basically know he has no choice but to eventually sign with them, because otherwise he's going to sit out. He can't go play for Texas A&M, even though he's claiming he can. And I believe they own his rights next year if he comes in anyway. So baseball, that's what makes it weird. We're going to get to where the Dodgers are at with their draft picks, but hopefully that's helpful, Carlos. And as always, we appreciate the super chat. Let's get to everybody's favorite thing to talk about right now, Bruce. Let's talk state of the Dodgers and the Dodgers bullpen. What's not to love about the Dodgers bullpen? Oh, everything. Okay, never mind. There's nothing to love about the Dodgers bullpen right now. Let me give you an update on where we are with some of these guys. Let's start with Tanner Scott, the guy they're paying $1 gazillion to. Good news for some people. The ligament in his elbow is perfectly intact. The MRI revealed only inflammation. He is shut down this week. Sounds like he'll be reevaluated this weekend, but the expectation is that Tanner Scott will, in fact, be pitching for the Dodgers by the end of this season. That's the Dodgers closer. Behind him, we've got Blake Trinan. He made his sixth rehab appearance with for the Dodgers, fifth with Oklahoma City on Wednesday. The goal was that he would go back-to-back tonight. I have not seen if he pitched, but the hope was that he would go back-to-back tonight. So Trinan on the verge, seemingly, of returning to the Dodgers. Then you've got Kirby Yates, 7.2 ERA in July. He has allowed runs in 4 of his last 6 appearances. Not great, Bob, for a guy who's 38 years old. Then you've got Ben Kasparius in his last 11 and a third. Plug your ears, kids. This is not suitable for work. 11 and a third inning, 22 hits, 17 runs, 5 walks, and 10 strikeouts. His ERA has doubled since June 7th after he had a dominant start to the season. Some good news. Alex Vesia, 2.59 ERA, just 1 earned run in his last 12 appearances. Only allowed runs in 2 appearances dating back nearly 2 months to May 29th. And then you've got Jack Dreyer, 2.9 ERA with a 1.86 ERA in the month of July so far. You've got Anthony Bonda, 3.8 ERA on the season, but 2.8 in the last 30 days, which is nice. I'll just round this out. You've got Alexis Diaz, who's made 1 appearance for the Dodgers and was good. Edgardo Enriquez, 1.2 scoreless innings in his lone appearance. Michael Kopech, eligible to return until August 27th. And optimistic he will be ready by then. You've got Brusdar Graterol, who is working through a throwing progression in Arizona. Possible return in September. Kyle Hurt, who you like, who's currently rehabbing in Arizona. I look at this bunch, Bruce. There's a world. Can I speak optimism to people that don't want to hear it? There's a world where Tanner Scott comes back and is Tanner Scott again. And Blake Trinan is back. And Vesia and Dreyer continue to be really good. And Kopech comes back. And Graterol comes back. And then Kyle Hurt, who knows? And then Bonda, Enriquez, Diaz, who knows? Starters, Robleski, Sheehan, who knows? Like, there's a world where there's names and pieces here. So before we get to the trade deadline stuff, I just threw a billion pieces of information at you. But talk to me about where you're at with the current state of the Dodgers bullpen.
Yeah, obviously it's been ugly. They need somebody, whether it's from outside the organization or inside the organization, to step up and say they're a right-handed reliever who can get guys out, because that currently is completely absent from the organization. That said, with those scenarios that you just went through and some of those guys, I think a lot of those are more likely than not, or at least a very good chance. Blake Trinan coming back, I think you can have faith in him. Like you said, there's Kopech down the line, there's Graterol hopefully down the line. So it's not like that when you look at this bullpen, it's a talentless group that there's no reason to have any sort of faith at all, and they absolutely will not win the World Series with the guys they have. I don't think that that's the case. Obviously, it's been really ugly lately. Kirby Yates is a big reason for that. He's completely lost his splitter, and he's a guy who is great because of his splitter, or was great because of his splitter. So when he doesn't have that pitch, it's not going to work. The guy that I'll definitely give a highlight to is Edgardo Enriquez. I think he has a chance to step up and really shore up that back end. And he looked good in his first appearance the other night, even though he made a really bad throwing error on a PFP and threw him down the right field line for 3 runs. The pitching part of it looked good.
It doesn't help to be when you throw 102 to first base. That doesn't work as well as when you throw it to the catcher.
And it looked like a guy who was in his first big league game of the year because it was a chopper right in front of home plate. And it looked at first to me like he stopped and thought he was going to let it roll foul and then thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And then rushed it. And so that was a fluke. I like the guy's arm talent more than anything. So I think he has a chance to step up, but I do think that they're going to go into the deadline looking to add to this group.
In all seriousness, I know people in the chat hate everything I just said about the bullpen. What world is this that you speak of, Jeff? But I really do think, like, if you just adjust where guys are at in this pecking order, like Vesia and Dreyer have been incredible. They have two incredible relief pitchers right now. I think we all agree that when Blake Treinen is healthy, he's incredible. He has pretty much only been incredible when he's healthy. Now, if he can stay healthy is the $1 billion question here for the Dodgers. But like, if we just started from the place of, hey, Treinen is awesome, Vesia is awesome, Dreyer has been awesome for the Dodgers, and then you build on from there. Again, it's like, okay, well, what do we get out of Tanner Scott? Do you believe the injury update that it's just inflammation, that he's going to be back at some point? If you were skeptical, I don't blame you. But as of now, I think it's fair to at least be hopeful that Tanner Scott is back. And if Tanner Scott is back, regardless of how you might feel about him, he is more likely to be awesome than he is to be terrible. And then I would just, again, if you just give me 50% of the other outcomes, like give me one of Kopech or Gratterall, give me one of Enriquez or Kyle Hurt or Alexis Diaz being an effective reliever. Like Anthony Bonda, fine. He's a back end, or front end, I should say, like sixth, seventh inning type guy. But the thing I keep coming back to, Bruce, is you only need 3 or 4 starting pitchers. And so if the Dodgers depth, again, massive if, I get it. If the Dodgers depth still exists and Emmett Sheehan becomes a relief pitcher and Justin Robleski becomes a relief pitcher and, you know, Dustin May, if he's still in the organization, is a relief pitcher, like I can just see a world where I'm not saying the Dodgers don't need help, but it's probably not as dire of a situation 4 weeks from now as it feels like it is today.
It's been a combination of factors with some of the injured guys not being here, especially when you talk about the right-handed side specifically. All those injuries, missing guys like Treinen, Kopech, Gratterall, that's a group of 3 that you're hoping you have 1 or 2 of by October because you'd feel good about all those guys. None of them are here now. And then it's also been a combination of a few different guys just forgetting how to pitch at the same time here in July when a lot of things have been going wrong with the team, and that's been the number one issue. They haven't been throwing strikes. That's been probably the most frustrating thing. How many walks have been issued? Ben Kasparius fell off a cliff all of a sudden after he moved to the rotation and then got moved back. And that's been unfortunate, but I still think he's got the raw stuff that he can bounce back to. And it's just about finding the rhythm again for some of these guys. And like you said, the group of names is not bad. It might not be like elite and where we hoped it would be at this point, but it's still not bad. And I still think that with the rotation that we talked about, hopefully being able to take some burden off of the bullpen, it's not the end of the world like it has felt like these last couple of weeks when nobody's been performing all at the same time.
And I forgot to mention, obviously Yamamoto is getting bumped to the bullpen because Kershaw's starting game 1 of the playoffs as well. So that's another arm that we need to include. But in all seriousness, let's talk about some of the relievers, because Dave Roberts has said that the Dodgers are, quote, intensifying the search for bullpen help. When he was asked if their need for relievers this year was as great as their need for starters last year, he said, quote, yeah, I think so. And so there's a bunch of relievers available. Starting pitching is pretty weak as far as the deadline goes. Relief pitchers potentially available, not necessarily the case. You've got Emmanuel Clase. He's a top 5 closer in the game under team control through 2028. He's signed through 2026 and then has 2 $10 million team options, which at the rate he's pitching look like incredible bargains. He's just 27 years old, and after a pretty bad start since May, he has been awesome. The other guy at the top of this list, I would say, is Joan Duran, controlled through 2027. He's also 27, hadn't allowed a home run in more than 70 innings before Ohtani took him deep the other day. So those 2 guys feel like the top of the class. I'll add in Griffin Jax, another Minnesota Twins player who, shout out to Griffin Jax. We appreciated the work that you had the other day against the Dodgers. He's also under team control through 2027. He's 30 years old. The ERA is not awesome. The 14.2 strikeouts per 9, though, is awesome. So Clase, Duran, Jax, again, all under team control well beyond this year, 27 for Duran and Jax, 28 for Clase. So the price would be hefty. Do we really think, Bruce, that after paying Tanner Scott all that money, that the Dodgers are going to spend the prospect capital to go get one of those 3 headline relief pitchers at the deadline?
I really don't. And I know it's hard to hear and it's hard to stomach just having watched this bullpen these last couple of weeks, but I don't think that it really makes sense. You kind of wish that at least one of these guys was an expiring contract just so that the price went down and then it could make a little bit more sense. But the price is going to be astronomical for all 3 of these guys because all 3 of them are very good. If you traded for any of the 3, they'd immediately slot into the back end, like 8th or 9th inning, and you'd feel confident. But I saw a report on Twitter the other day. I forget where it was from, but the Twins were asking for 2 top 100 prospects for Duran and Jax, and Clase is going to be an even more expensive asking price than that if that's where we're at with these relief pitchers this deadline. And I just don't see the Dodgers meeting that because, like we said, I personally don't think the bullpen is in as terrible a place as it feels like once you can bank on some of those guys getting healthy, and that part's free. So It's not going to cost any prospects to hope for Kopech to get back and hope that Trinan stays healthy once he's back. Like I said, it's hard to say because it feels like they absolutely do need help, but I think that help will come from different places than these top 3 names.
Some other names I'll mention, guys that would be cheaper than the 3 I mentioned. The first one is a guy that I feel like you're new to this channel this year, Bruce. This is a guy that I think might have the record of most consecutive seasons. I think he's surpassing Luis Castillo as the trade deadline target most often mentioned. That would be our guy, Daniel Starkin's favorite Pittsburgh Pirate, David Bednar. Was optioned in April and then was reliever of the month in June with a sub-2 ERA. He's controlled through next season. So he's 30 years old. So again, he's not a full-on rental, but safe to say a guy they optioned in April, the cost is probably a little bit less than some of the top arms. That's one name. Then you've got Ryan Helsley, who is just a rental, will be a free agent at the end of the year. He's 30 years old, but the Cardinals can't figure out what they're going to do. They started off well. They seems to be falling. Seems like the playoffs might be out of their reach. He does have 5 blown saves this year, so he might be kind of the best combination of high-end talent with stock at its lowest possible because they need to trade him now if they want to get anything from him. One other name I'll include here before I get to my sleeper is Pete Fairbanks. He has a team option for $7 million next year. The Rays have insisted he is not available, but as you said to me right before we came on, but he is a Ray, which means he's available. So Fairbanks, Helsley, Bednar, are any of these 3 guys more realistic, more attainable, more likely? Maybe that's the word I'm looking. Are these guys more likely for you than the first 3 names?
Ryan Helsley, they are all 3 more likely, and Ryan Helsley is the one that I look at as making the most sense to me because I think you're buying low on a guy who has supreme talent. Things have not gone right for him this year, but I think there are identifiable things that you can fix. One of my friends, Jacob, for Baseball Prospectus, he wrote a thread on it earlier this year on Helsley, talking about that his arm angle has changed significantly since when he was the all-star Ryan Helsley and what he is this year. And it's those kind of things. I think the Dodgers could make something out of him and get him closer back to that sort of back-end relief guy that you expect him to be. The price would be cheaper since he's a rental too. So I think that's the name that I would most like to see as a combination of back-end talent, but then also maybe not the highest price. David Bednar, I think, is going to cost just as much as if he wasn't optioned. I think he's going to be right up just shy of Clase and Duran and Jax because he's shown he's right back to the guy that he has been these last few years. So yeah, Helsley is the guy that I'm most interested in heading into the deadline.
One other name I'm going to throw out because I just find this interesting. I was looking at the Athletic, some names of guys that were potentially available. And the name that jumped out to me is on the Angels. So a guy who is highly unlikely, I suppose, to be traded to the Dodgers. But what I was looking into, Reed Detmers, he's a fascinating case because the peripherals on him are very good. The stuff numbers, the locations numbers are all very, very good with Detmers. He's under control through 2027. He's 25 years old. There was speculation that maybe the Angels try and cash in on this guy if they don't necessarily believe that the performance is fully real with him. But when I read that the underlying metrics all love this guy, that feels like the type of dude the Dodgers would want. He doesn't feel like he would necessarily command back-end closer type money, and yet he's also under team control. As I said, for a few years, he's only 25 years old. I'm curious, Angels part aside and whether the Angels would actually trade with the Dodgers, does Reed Detmers do it for you at all with this Dodgers bullpen?
To be honest, not really. Not because I don't like the idea, but I think they need to be looking for right-handed relievers more than anything. I think they've already got like as many lefties as they really need. So that part kind of hurts it. I've also seen some rumors swirling around his name that there could be teams who'd look to trade for him and put him back into the starting rotation. And if there are teams calling up the Angels looking for that, then that would probably take the Dodgers out of the race, because then you're talking about a starting pitching return instead of a relief pitching return. So that would make things a lot harder there. But he hasn't been very good this year. He's got the former first-round type pedigree. So, I mean, if it were to be like they are struggling with any of these other relievers and they just want to get a guy, whether they're left-handed, right-handed, anything, just to help things out, then, I mean, he could make some sense. I think he's good. I just think the fit isn't the best.
Fair. Any other names that I didn't mention that you want to throw out? Walker Buehler, maybe Kenley Jansen, some people in the chat. Whatever the opposite of asking for is, they're doing that with Kenley Jansen. So any other names you want to throw out?
Not in particular. It's tough to highlight. We were talking about this before we went on the air. These relief pitchers, and the area that I think the Dodgers are going to be hunting is not this absolute top of the line, and more the kind of Helsley and below sort of range in terms of return price. And that's where there's a billion guys that fit that description. So it's hard to know exactly who they'll go after. But I do think they will be trading for at least one reliever. We're not going to make it through the deadline without the Dodgers acquiring somebody for the bullpen, whether it's Duran or it's somebody that we're like, oh, that guy was available. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I think they'll add to the bullpen somehow.
One of my bold predictions was that the Dodgers do not make like a massive needle moving type trade. I would say Helsley would be in the category of a needle mover, even if he is just a rental. Bednar probably in the same boat. You know, maybe a guy like a Reed Detmers level pitcher would probably not fall into that category. If it's not somebody that we're all just assuming is going to be like a potential closer, then that would say my bold prediction was correct. But remains to be seen on that one. Again, all the smoke is that the Dodgers are in fact going to be chasing a closer, a reliever. I would imagine not multiple. Like, it doesn't feel like they have all that many roster spots available for these guys. And so again, they may go quality over quantity here. 300 with the super chat. We mentioned the MLB draft earlier. He points out NIL has really changed the high school draftee game. Basically the idea that these guys are no longer choosing between a scholarship and $1 million because they might make hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of their scholarship and then go get the draft money a few years later. So have you noticed that, Bruce, as you followed the draft?
Oh, it's hugely different. There are guys that will be committed to SEC schools who would make more money in NIL than their signing bonus if you're not taken in the first couple rounds. It's changed the game a ton, and not every baseball school has access to NIL money. You're talking about the big ticket sort of schools, but guys who are committed to those schools, it's a lot of money that, like I said, is oftentimes more than their signing bonus if they're not a first rounder.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate the super chat, 300. I know you're a loyal watcher and listener, so thank you. Shout out to you. Last one, state of the Dodgers. Let's talk offense. They have a guy, you may have heard of him. His name is Shohei Ohtani, and he's homered in 5 straight games, Bruce. Now, I'd have to go and check some of the textbooks here, but I feel like 5 home runs in 5 straight games with the home run. I feel like that's pretty good. Am I right?
Oh yeah, it seems solid, right?
Yeah, he keeps doing it. The pitching thing apparently has not completely diminished his power, as some were worried about. You may point out that he has like 6 hits over those 5 games, but who cares? 5 home runs, folks. Focus on the positives. Then you got Freddie Freeman, walk-off hit the other day. Classic Freddie Freeman, slap it to the other side of the field. Are you buying back in? Are we ready to buy back in on Freddie in the end of this slump, even if maybe he's not ready to?
Yeah, I never fully sold the Freeman stock because I think that at-bats like that walk-off are exactly why I'll never be all the way out on him. He's such a professional hitter, and whether he's feeling all the way right mechanically or all the way in rhythm or not, he is able to go up there and have at-bats like that. You look at like his World Series home run, he wasn't healthy. Through this stretch, he'll have a walk-off hit when he isn't feeling the best, and he's just the guy that if he's like, when we talk about Kershaw on the pitching side of like peripherals, whatever, you feel good sending him out there and knowing he'll compete. That's Freddie Freeman in the box. So I will always feel good with Freddie up there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Will Smith, he's hitting 323. He's the only National League player hitting over 300. He's nearly 30 points ahead of the second place guy in the National League. That would be Brendan Donovan, which it's worth pointing out, by the way, Freddie Freeman is 4th in the National League in batting average in spite of the slump that he's been in. The Mookie horse has been beat to death, so no real updates on Mookie Betts other than that he was at the Bad Guys 2 premiere, which my daughters are very excited about. Andy Pages remains on fire. The key update here is Max Muncy. He is headed to Arizona to take live at bats. He will be reevaluated after the weekend to see what the next step is. Bruce, I'll be honest, I was skeptical that this injury might actually end on time, so to speak. So far, not getting my hopes up, but so far, things seem to be trending in that direction.
Yeah, we're on the right track. You and I both hopped on the show and right after he got hurt, and neither of us were willing to buy all the way in on that 6-week timeline, and he's way ahead of that as of now. So they absolutely could use him back, and he's the kind of addition that means so much, not only for the offense, but for the overall team. When we're talking about getting guys back like Blake Snell, like Blake Trinan, and like Max Muncy, you're improving the bullpen just by making your team better. You're going to score more runs. That's going to make less opportunities for the bullpen to blow it. So regardless of where the absolute biggest needs on the team are, when you're getting back stars like that, you feel very good about it.
Jedi Engineer wants to know, hot prediction, will Ohtani get to 8 games with a home run in a row and join the club? I believe 8 is the record, he said. Does Ohtani reach that record this week?
If there's anybody who can do it, it's Shohei Ohtani, so I'm not going to say no.
Okay, I will say no. That seems crazy that we would do it 3 more times. Is he capable? Sure, but seems unlikely. If you think he's going to get to 8, start throwing money down. Just roll that money over 3 straight games.
It was Duran in the game who hadn't allowed a home run all year when Ohtani took him yard in the 9th inning. So I don't think Shohei can go deep off of anybody at any time. So like I said, if anybody can do it, it's him.
And look, Boston ain't exactly the team that's going to be shutting him down. We'll put it that way. So, okay, now it's time to get into some of the offensive names, Bruce, that don't exactly inspire confidence. I tweeted this one out, and Teoscar Hernandez. I had no idea, Bruce, how bad it has actually been for Teoscar Hernandez. He has a 511 OPS in the month of July and a 590 OPS in the month of June. Since May 26th, he has a 56 weighted runs created plus, 44% below league average. He's hitting 204 with a 249 on base and a 315 slugging percentage. And if you want me to put this in perspective for you, I will share a stat that is not a fact about Michael Conforto, but is about Teoscar Hernandez. But to put Teoscar's slash line in context, since May 26, Michael Conforto is hitting 9 points higher in batting average, has an on-base percentage that is 48 points higher, and has a slugging percentage that is 78 points higher. In every single item of the slash line since May 26, 2 months ago, Michael Conforto has been better than Teoscar. I will reiterate, this is not a positive Michael Conforto stat. This is a holy crap, I had no idea, Bruce, how badly Teoscar Hernandez has been struggling.
It's been rough, and that's on both sides of the ball. It would be a lot easier to look past the offensive slump if he was playing good defense in right field, but his defense in right field has been just as bad as the offense has been. I kind of wonder with the groin and how he's looked, especially on defense, if he's playing sort of hurt still. But ultimately, I don't think this is the guy that he's going to be like moving forward. Like this is Teoscar Hernandez now, or that they need to because if that were the case, it would be get rid of this guy. But I think this was always like a possibility with his profile. That's why before they went out and got him before 2024, I wasn't really all in on Teoscar and his profile because I saw some bottom out potential. Like I said, I don't think he's bottomed out. Like he'll bounce back from where he is right now, but it certainly is concerning. Some of these things, the chase is super high. The strikeouts are high. The power all of a sudden isn't there. The defense sucks. So there isn't a lot to like right now, and he's going to need to bounce back quickly.
Yeah, and I see some people mentioning the potential that an injury is impacting that, and neither of us is like all the way out on Teoscar, like, hey, this is the guy who he's going to be. It's just worth pointing out that we're talking about a 2-month stretch now of him being that. And he's not alone, by the way, because I'm going to continue here. Tommy Edman, in the month of July, has a 143 batting average with a 426 OPS. Since June 28th, so nearly a month ago, he has 1 extra base hit. Joining him in that category is Haesung Kim, who's hitting 191 in July with a 421 OPS, and he has just 1 extra base hit since June 22nd. Now, he, of course, has not been playing nearly as much as Tommy Edman, and Tommy Edman is coming back and battling some injury stuff. My point here is not to pick on any one individual player, But to just say Teoscar has been bad, Conforto has been bad, Edman has been bad, Kim has been bad, Kike has been hurt, Outman has been bad, Estuary Ruiz is whatever, Miguel Rojas has been fine, but like, are you really buying into that? My point, Bruce, is the back half of this lineup has been an absolute mess for the Dodgers of late. So the question is, as we approach the trade deadline, can they fix themselves, or does the help need to come from the outside?
I think they can fix themselves for a multitude of reasons. You go back, maybe not a month, because that's when all this started. You go back 2 months before Teoscar really fell off a cliff, when Sung Kim was just starting his big league career and lighting everything on fire. Tommy Edman was great to start the year. Like 2 months ago, we were talking about the depth of this lineup as the best that it's been in years. When looking at lineup cards, it feels like that there's always a point in time during the season that you look at a lineup card and you go, oh my gosh, what's that, 6 through 9? That looks terrible. At the beginning of the year, felt like the opposite of that. It felt like there was competitive hitters all the way through the lineup. And now you're kind of in that place where it feels like there's some automatic outs. But I think those guys can bounce back. They're all playing below the expectation of what they should be bringing. So I don't think that going out and trading for a bat really makes much sense, because then you're also having to boot out one of these guys who is underperforming what they are expected to. And then you're just selling out, and that's not a good efficiency move. So wait for Max Muncy to get back. He helps the depth of the lineup a ton just with how many pitches he sees and his overall approach, and then hope that everybody can get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question here from Carlos, by the way, for some context. He says slugging, OPS, OPS plus, on base percentage. What are the ranges that are considered good, and what are the ranges that are considered bad? Let's start with on base percentage. I mean, I'm looking at the leaderboard as we speak. I would, if your OBP, which this number this year seems good, generally is not. If the on base percentage is over 350, that's generally pretty good. 370 puts you in the top 22 guys in Major League Baseball right now. So for the average player, if you can get to around 360-ish, that's pretty good. OPS, for me, anything over 800, I would say is good. We're not talking elite, but 360, 800 are the first two numbers I would throw out. Do those seem about right to you, Bruce?
I think, yeah, with on base, if you're above 350, I think you're in a pretty good spot. And for OPS, I don't even... 800 is a for sure. You're really good above that. I would even say, like, if you're above a 775, then you're a pretty good contributor in the modern day baseball. OPS plus is easy, Carlos, because you can just look at it. It's normalized with 100 being average. Anything above 100 is one standard deviation is 110 OPS plus, and you go up from there. So that one makes it easy for you. And then slug, and you want to get to that one, Jeff?
Yeah, slugging percentage, I would say like 500 is a good slugging percentage. Again, 500 puts you in the top 20-ish. So if you're at like 370 on base, you're in the top 20 in on base percentage. If you're at 500 slug, you're in the top 20 for slug. Obviously, that adds up to 870, which gives you an OPS number that puts you in that range. But the reason, Carlos, I use the number weighted runs created plus, OPS plus, a very similar number. The reason I like weighted runs created plus is because it basically takes your batting average, your on base, your slugging percentage, and smashes it into a number that's very easy to understand. As Bruce pointed out, 100 is league average. So anything above 100 means you're above league average, and it tells you how much. If you're at 110, weighted runs created plus, that means you're 10% better than league average. If you're 90, that means you're 10% below league average as far as that goes. So that's a total offensive stat. But again, on base percentage is helpful to identify a particular skill, slugging percentage as well. So hopefully that's helpful. And we appreciate the super chat. And it's a great question, because sometimes we lose sight of those things as we're talking about it. So we mentioned, Bruce, both you and I, by the way, are in agreement that the bottom of this Dodgers lineup, I believe, is going to fix itself. I was skeptical, as I shared at the beginning, that Tommy Edman would be like this above average offensive contributor. But I never once predicted that he would be like really, really bad. I think he's battling injury. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to be fine. I think Teoscar Hernandez may not return to like 140 weighted runs created plus, although we have seen him be very good this year. But I think he's going to be an above average offensive player when things are all said and done. Everybody knows where I stand on Michael Conforto, which, hey, 690 OPS over the last couple months. Not terrible, everybody. But Sung Kim, I was skeptical. Is this because it's inconsistent? Is this because the league has caught up to what he can and can't do? All remains to be seen. But when it comes to the trade deadline, Bruce, that's the question I want to ask you, if the Dodgers were to go and address the offense at the deadline, what position do you think they would be targeting? Would it be an infielder, a second baseman, a third baseman potentially, or would it be an outfielder?
I think you're looking at bench, and the bench that makes the most sense is like a fourth outfielder. Right now, you've got Esteury Ruiz and James Outman on the roster, and they probably aren't going to be for the rest of the year. When you've got Muncy coming back, we'll take one of the spots, and then hopefully Kike Hernandez eventually. But in the current moment, I think that a fourth outfielder is the move that makes the most sense.
So I wrote down two names that appeal to me. Before I share mine, are there any names of guys that you think may be a Dodgers target or a guy that kind of fits the profile and might be available?
I think Harrison Bader could make some sense. He can play all three outfield positions. I think a right-handed bat fits better than a lefty because you can also potentially platoon with Michael Conforto in left field, or however you can work into the lineup. It'll be easier for a right-handed bat than a left-handed hitter. So I think Harrison Bader makes some sense as an all-around contributor.
I'm going to throw two names at you. And look, both of us are saying the Dodgers are not trading for a needle mover offensively, but they're trading for depth. They want to upgrade that Esteury Ruiz, James Outman, type position. And the two names that jumped out to me as I looked at guys that might be available. The first one is Adolis Garcia. And here's why I say that. He has been bad since the 2023 playoff run, okay? But did I mention the 2023 playoff run that Adolis Garcia had? Did I mention that the Dodgers love dudes that hit in the postseason and don't care all that much about whether or not they hit during the regular season? He's under team control through next year. At the very least, he's a power bat, and he's a good defender in the corner outfields, which they currently don't have any of those if Andy Pye is playing center field. The second guy I would say is a better option than Garcia, but a very similar mold, other than that this guy is actually good this year, and that would be Ramon Laureano of Baltimore. He's having a great year. He would upgrade the defense. He's good in the corners, could actually play center field in a pinch if they need. The Athletic described him as a high-end fourth outfielder that mashes right-handed pitching. And so whether he'd be available, how much he would cost, given how good he's played, and the fact that Baltimore, who knows what they're going to do. But Garcia, Laureano, do either of those names intrigue you? / is that kind of the pool you think the Dodgers might be swimming in?
Yeah, I think Laureano is exactly the sort of name that you're looking at, and I think would make some sense. I think it's more likely the Orioles move him than the Rangers, with still another year on Adolis Garcia's contract. I think that he probably stays put, and they hope that he can bounce back and get back to the perception to match his actual production. But Laureano, I think, is right in the exact ballpark of Bader and Laureano, of that fourth right-handed hitting outfielder who also has a decent glove, can rotate around the outfield wherever is needed. And I think he would make some sense for sure.
So Big Bob Johnson, who had two super chats, the first one, no question. So we appreciate the second super chat with the question. So all of this said, Bruce, starting pitching, relief pitching, offense, who would be your top trade target? If you could, realistically, you've got to give up the guys it would take to go get Clase or Durant or whatever. So given what it would cost, given what the Dodgers need, who would be the guy that might make you the most happy at the end of this deadline?
Yeah, I already sort of tipped my hand there, but I think Ryan Helsley is a name that really makes a lot of sense from a combination of cost effectiveness. He's on an expiring deal, but it's shown that he can be the best reliever in the game, really, in the past, if the Dodgers can get him back to that point. So I think you've got a good mixture of talent and not as astronomical a cost. And I want to preface that there's probably a lot of people who see me, I'm a prospect guy, think I do not want to trade prospect. I am not a prospect hugger. When the situation is right, I am perfectly willing to give up prospects. I just, with the current state of the team, I don't want to trade away guys like DePaula and Hope, because the Dodgers are a little bit older. That offense is going to need some young guys here in these next few years. And I think those guys are studs. And it's more about the fact that I would not want to trade those top 100 caliber names for a relief pitcher specifically. I don't want to do that. And so I think Helsley, you could get away with keeping at least most of that top talent.
Yeah, Laureano's really interesting to me as just kind of I could see him filling a need and potentially just becoming an everyday outfielder for this team if Teoscar and or Conforto can't figure things out. But I'll say Bednar would be the guy that I like, just because I wonder if you're the Pirates, when you optioned him in April, did you have this moment of holy crap, we could have sold this guy for prospects and we totally missed the window? And yes, now he's good again, but I wonder if they're just eager to cash that in and not risk losing that ticket once and for all. So again, he is under team control. He has been very, very good, but I would say Bednar with Laureano kind of a close second. So Bob, we appreciate the super chat on that one. Let's get to a couple odds and ends, a prospect corner, and then we'll get to some questions. Let's do a little bit of a draft pick tracker. We referenced the draft. Some good news for the Dodgers. So far, 10 of the 11 guys they picked in the first 10 rounds have signed. Aiden West hasn't officially been signed. That hasn't been reported widely, but the Baltimore Sun, which is where he's from, is reporting that he is not going to commit to go to NC State, that he has signed for roughly $500,000 over slot, which would leave only Mason Legenza as the last guy to do so. The Dodgers would have roughly $500,000 over slot left to go after Legenza, given where they're at with everybody else. So we know that like 90% of these guys end up signing, Bruce. So far, 10 for 11 in the first 10 rounds for the Dodgers. And given that they have all that money left over, I still believe Legenza is probably a likely get for the Dodgers. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm not stressing Legenza. He's the kind of guy that taken in the 6th round, they had it forecasted out already to have an idea of what kind of bonus he was going to demand. And they saved some money in the first couple of rounds specifically to draft a guy like that in the 6th round. So I'm not worried that Legenza will get signed. I'd place it at a 90%, 85% chance, which you would always take those odds.
Rounds 11 through 20, they've got 6 of their 10 picks signed there with 11th rounder Dylan Tate. Then you've got Sam Horn, the quarterback from Missouri, Finn Edwards, who's a JUCO guy, and Shane Brinham, who's a high school kid, the 4 unsigned. You mentioned it's almost never happens that you sign all, in this case, 21 guys that you draft. Tate, Horn we knew was going to be complicated. Brinham's a high school kid. Edwards is a JUCO kid, which is basically in today's world a high school kid. So of these 4, do you think there are more signings coming for the Dodgers? Do you think Tate is a guy that they're able to lock down in the 11th?
Yeah, Tate's the one that I would be surprised if he didn't get signed. The other 3 guys were all the easily top 3 least likely to sign. As soon as the draft happened, it seemed like those guys stood out as signing risks. But Dylan Tate, I think with the 11th round pick, I think that he'll likely get signed, a college junior out of Oklahoma. He's a guy who's going to probably just be a reliever. That's at least how he was used at Oklahoma. It's a fastball. It's up to 99. Good command on the fastball, too, and a slider. I really liked that pick, so I would be disappointed if he wasn't signed, and I'm still expecting that he will be. They probably want to figure out Legenza first, make sure that they have enough money for that, and then they can shift the focus to Tate. They've got $150,000 that they can throw at him before it counts against the bonus pool. So what I would guess, they get Legenza inked first, and then just whatever money is left, they can give north of that 150 to Tate, assuming that they're not going to be signing those other 3 guys.
And correct, and you said this earlier, if they do not sign Legenza, his bonus pool number, they don't get to spend that elsewhere, correct?
Yeah, that money gets taken away from the bonus pool. So that's where in those top 10 rounds, and with Legenza specifically, it would be a failure not to sign him. Some of the other guys, it's like, whatever, it doesn't impact the bonus pool. They were long shots when they were taken anyway to be signed, but Legenza is not in that group. If they don't sign him, that would be a mistake on draft day.
All right, let's get to prospect corner here. We got a fun one tonight, and I'm going to try my best to pronounce this correctly, so apologies if I don't. Ching-Xian Ko from Taiwan is the prospect that we're highlighting, and the reason that we're highlighting him is because Keith Law came out with a top prospect list. I believe it was today. He listed his top 60 prospects in all of Major League Baseball, and Ko, who is a guy that is, I would say, rarely talked about out of Taiwan, signed 18 months ago for $650K, was number 53 on Keith Law's list, a top 60 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. I had to text you and Justin Lorber at the same time to say, this is crazy, right? So, Bruce, I'll ask you on air. This is kind of crazy, right?
It's aggressive for sure. Ching-Xian Ko, he lit up the Arizona Complex League this year and definitely put himself on the radar in a big way. The hit tool was really impressive compared to where the expectation was it would be this early. I wouldn't rank him in my top 60 in all of baseball yet, but Keith Law got aggressive, and I love it because that means that the talent is absolutely there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that Law described as the best player in the Complex League right now. And for context, Josue De Paula was 17th on this list. Quintero was 19th on this list. That was the first thing that jumped out to me. Like, holy crap, top 20 prospect for Quintero, who we've talked about on this show. Everybody likes him. Zaire Hope, 49th. Mike Sirota, 59th. So to put this in perspective, he's basically got Ko on par with Zaire Hope, who I think it was Baseball Prospectus had Hope as a top 10 prospect. Like Ko is in the mix with Eli Willits, who is just the number 1 draft pick. I mean, you mentioned you're skeptical a little bit of some complex league stuff, and you kind of want to see guys do it at a different level. But, I like the word you chose, Bruce. Aggressive is the ranking here from Keith Law.
Yeah, for Law, this is the kind of ranking that you're trying to get ahead of the industry and plant your flag before he really becomes hugely popular. And this is the kind of guy that absolutely could. He just got moved up to single A today, along with Emil Morales and Chase Harlan. So it's a good influx of talent that's heading up to Rancho Cucamonga now, and Ko is among that group. So we'll have a chance this year over these last couple of months to see what he does in single A. And if he really continues to hit, then I think that he'll be skyrocketing up my preseason list next year as well. He already is moving up quite a bit for the midseason list. But he's super talented. The hit tool looks like it's above average already, which is certainly encouraging for a guy who was signed as a teenager. The overall thing to like about Ko is it's a well-rounded profile. It could be that all 5 tools are at least average or above average. He's got good bat speed. So the offensive profile is really the thing that stands out. I think the reason that Law ranked him as high as he did, Law wrote in his bio that he thinks that Ko could play center field. If that is true, if Ko sticks in center field, then you're talking about a similar thing to Quintero, where it brings the value up by a ton compared to if he was a corner outfielder who you really have to rely on the bat. So watch Ko. If he can stick in center field, then that's massive for his overall profile.
And again, $650,000 guy they signed out of Taiwan. And it's just, Keith Law basically just joked like this. Of course, the Dodgers did this because it's the Dodgers. So, all right, let's get to some questions, all caps questions. We got about 5 or 10 minutes left. I do want to ask Bruce about the Gatorade debate that I got myself embroiled in earlier on social media, but we'll get to his favorite Gatorade flavors here in a little bit. But let's talk questions here. Dodgers Hub right off the bat. Thoughts on a trade with the Twins for Griffin Jax and Willie Castro. Jax, the elite bullpen arm. Castro can play all over the field and has a 118 weighted runs created plus this season. We've seen the Dodgers in the Tommy Edman Michael Kopech trade kind of do all of their shopping at once, Bruce. The Twins do have some options. Harrison Bader, Willie Castro, Griffin Jax, Joan Duran. Is it possible the Dodgers just say to the Twins, solve all of our problems at once, please?
Yeah, I think it could be if they were able to make that happen. I could see it for sure. Looking at like a Jackson Castro specific trade, you'd have to be prepared to part with a lot. That would be a very, very expensive package because Willie Castro has really established himself as he's not just like a utility man anymore. That's an everyday big leaguer, switch hitter that's valuable. So that would be a very expensive package. But I mean, they would certainly make the big league team quite a bit better if the Dodgers were to pull that off.
Yeah, Shelley with the question, what's going on with Gonsolin? We mentioned briefly earlier that Dave Roberts basically said we have to make a decision soon on him, which in my experience is code speak for we're probably shutting him down for the season pretty soon. So the outlook on Gonsolin did not look good when he got injured and looks less good now, I guess I would say. Jay asks, could you see the Dodgers targeting Dylan Cease this offseason? I could see a prove-it deal with the season that he is having so far. I never want to say, Bruce, that the Dodgers have enough starting pitching because that seems impossible. But every dude we just talked about, except for Clayton Kershaw, is due back next season, on top of Gavin Stone and River Ryan and some of the injured starting pitchers as well. So I'm not going to say the Dodgers aren't going to go over after any starting pitching, but it feels like they've kind of done their shopping there.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely they throw big money into starting pitcher this offseason because, like you said, they're getting guys back like Gavin Stone. And then also this group that we're talking about that still has options right now, this young group of pitching, Justin Robleski, Emmett Sheehan, like those guys have to be big leaguers at some point. And moving into next year, that's where you're kind of expecting they're not going to be in AAA anymore in their just like progression timeline. The other thing with Dylan Cease, I don't think that he's going to be a guy who has to sign a prove-it deal. Like the stuff is electric regardless of like where his ERA is at this year. He's going to get a pretty significant contract just for the ability that he has. And that's kind of where you talk about nowadays teams pay guys based off what they think they'll do in the future instead of what they've done in the past. And Cease is a guy who's going to be an ace moving forward.
Bruce, you're not going to like this question. GI wants to know, DePaula, Hope, Freeland, Quintero, Sirota, Ferris, and Rushing. Which two would you most be willing to give up for a closer and or bat with some control, i.e. Duran, either Duran, Kwan, Clase, etc. So of these 6, 7 guys who kind of are at the top of every Dodgers prospect list, which 2 would you be most okay giving up?
That's obviously a very hard question to answer, because the answer for most of these guys is I don't want to give them up for a relief pitcher. Freeland is the guy that I think has the lowest ceiling in this group, but he's tough to move because he's currently the insurance policy at shortstop and could be the shortstop moving forward in the organization. Like, if it's not Mookie Betts, then it's Freeland, and there's a lot of value there. And just from an organizational standpoint, it's hard to trade that away. I think if you had to, just in a vacuum, Freeland and Soroto would be my 2 that I'd be most willing to give up. But like I said, if it's for a closer, I don't want to give those kind of guys from the top of the system up, because we've seen it with Tanner Scott. There's a reason the Dodgers usually have not targeted on the free agent market or the trade market these top level closers, because there's just a lot of risk associated with them. And I don't think that it's a good approach to be giving up top position player prospects, guys that you could be building around moving into the future, this next wave of really good hitters that are coming up, losing those guys for a closer that, is great. Don't take anything away from that, but could have some risk associated for 2 years of team control. Just doesn't seem like a good move to me.
Derek wants to know who won the Pepio for Glasnow trade, the Rays or the Dodgers, with all due respect to Johnny DeLuca, by the way.
Yeah, I think right now both teams are happy where they're at. In a vacuum, you have to say the Rays, because Pepio has been more healthy, but I would not undo that trade at all from the Dodgers perspective. I don't think they would either, because the reason they made the trade is Tyler Glasnow is a guy that you would feel good sending to the mound in Game 7. That part still remains true, and they just have to find a way to keep him healthy, which they are more than willing to continue trying to figure out moving into the future. So I think both teams are happy. Glasnow and the contract fits the Dodgers better than it fit the Rays. They got a really good young starter in Pepio, and he's done well there. So win-win right now is my diagnosis.
Yeah, I think it's clearly the Rays when you factor in the fact that Dodgers also had to then go and pay Tyler Glasnow, $25 million a year or whatever they gave him. However, I don't think the Dodgers fully regret the trade, because if Tyler Glasnow is healthy when the postseason starts, then that's everything they would have hoped for. They want that guy for 5 starts in October. That's all they care about. And so if they can eventually get him there, then they're going to say, great, we're super glad we did it. Because as good as Ryan Pepio has been, and he's been very good, he'd be 5th on the list of Dodgers starting pitchers, we said earlier, and you could make a case he might be tied with Kershaw. So I think both teams are happy. I think in a vacuum, Pepio clearly is the more valuable asset when you factor in team control and the payment to Glasnow. But again, all the Dodgers were hoping for with Glasnow was that he would be healthy come postseason time. He has not been yet, but if he is, then we'll see.
That trade was a ceiling raiser, not a floor raiser, and that's accomplished exactly what it was supposed to for the Dodgers so far.
There you go. JRM says, is the Luis Robert trade still on the horizon? Might be a buy low, low risk move. The problem for Robert is the White Sox want guys back, and nobody thinks Luis Robert is worth the $20 million options that he has coming up on his contract. So I don't see this trade happening specifically with the Dodgers, because I don't think they can take the risk that he just stinks. But I don't know what team would want to take Luis Robert knowing they have to give something up for him.
You talk about a complicated trade asset. That is Luis Robert right now, because those club options I feel like are probably as good as declined already. So I look at this and I see a rental that you're trading for a postseason push. And I think it would make sense if there's a team out there who wants to take that risk and say, if Luis Robert figures it out in a new destination, then he could propel us to the postseason. Sure, but that's not what the Dodgers are looking for. So I don't think that it's a match right now.
Carlos asks, Jeff, are you still on the Conforto train? Bruce, is there a train that you are riding? Yeah, Conforto. We're going to figure it out, baby. 690 OPS over the last couple months. You hear that? That's basically 700. We're almost there, Bruce. So yeah, up and to the right, Michael Conforto. Bruce, you got a, not cautiously optimistic. What's the word I'm looking for? Blindly optimistic player that you've got?
See, blindly optimistic kind of DQs my answer, but I guess Mookie Betts is my train that I'm still riding on. I like the move of him to the leadoff spot and Ohtani to the second spot. And part of that too, I believe in Mookie Betts. I think that Mookie as the leadoff guy is not a bad thing for the team. And so I'm cool with that. They've shown a willingness to move Freddie Freeman down to clean up this year. And I think it just makes more sense. Will Smith is the leading hitter in the National League. You can bat him third now. And I really think that a top 4 of Betts, Ohtani, Smith, Freeman. That's the best top four the Dodgers can have, and I have liked how it's looked so far.
All right, last question here. Alleluia says, can Rushing hit his high ceiling with the Dodgers as a backup? Fiducia can give you just as much as Rushing has. Where are you at on Dalton Rushing? Obviously, it's been inconsistent playing time and adjusting to the pitch calling of the major leagues, but it's been disappointing by anybody's metric. So where are you at with Dalton Rushing?
Yeah, I think that he's done a solid job for the amount of playing time he's been given. It's really hard to adjust to big league pitching and that sort of sporadic playing time thing. But the main thing that he's accomplished is, even though the numbers aren't there, he's a guy that you feel better about being in the lineup and sending up to the plate than like Austin Barnes or Hunter Fiducia would be. And just by being a valuable hitter that you're okay with in the starting lineup, he has allowed Will Smith to be this Will Smith that he is right now, because they're really mixing in Rushing starts more often than they have with the previous backup catchers. It's more been like a 2 out of every 3 games is Smith. There's been sometimes they alternate it. They're able to play matchups because Rushing's left-handed and set both guys up for success. So I think Rushing is in a great place where he is right now. The defense has been good. He's been great controlling the run game, and I think the game calling has been solid too. So he is doing a nice job with what he's been asked so far, and I think will continue to improve.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shout out to the 2,000 plus people in here live with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Those listening after the fact via podcast, we appreciate you. I have one last question for Bruce. It is not a baseball question. So this is your cue. The people that get mad when we talk about food, or in this case, beverages. My apologies. Thank you for joining. Subscribe and ring the notification bell. DraftKings tweeted out a ranking of Gatorade flavors, Bruce. And I didn't want to engage because it felt like an absolute engagement thirst trap, and I didn't want to participate, but I couldn't help myself, Bruce, because they put lemon lime Gatorade as the second flavor. Now, I've found out since then that 2 members of the Dodgers Blue family think that's outrageous because they believe lemon lime should be number 1 on that list. That would be Daniel Starkin and Blake Williams coming together. I think lemon lime is mid. And so my question to you, Bruce, is where you stand on lemon lime Gatorade specifically. And if you had to, do you have like a top 2 or 3 Gatorade flavors that you want to give us?
You're not going to love this answer. Lemon lime is not my number 1, but it's probably my number 2. I think Glacier Freeze is my number 1. I've always been that light blue flavor. That's been my favorite forever, but I've always liked lemon lime. I feel like that's a pretty common favorite Gatorade flavor, so I'm not surprised it was up there. I'm more surprised by the fact that you think it is mid.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, nobody is, like, I shouldn't say nobody. I guess some people are. Like, I'm not like looking in the fridge and seeing a lemon lime Gatorade and being like, let's go. Love that. I'm excited.
Fruit punch over lemon lime.
Fruit punch is for sure better.
Okay.
Love fruit punch Gatorade. Just the absolute classic, number 1. I think any of the freeze flavors that you referenced are great. Like, you could give me the dark blue, the light blue, the purple, maybe white, but I think those are all great. I had an orange Gatorade today. I think orange Gatorade is like good. It's not great. It's like a 10. It's like a 110 weighted runs created plus that I've got for orange Gatorade. It's like solid.
Yeah.
Lemon lime's like 100. Lemon lime is like 100 weighted runs created plus. That's just where I'm at. I'm not saying it's Austin Barnes at the plate, but maybe it's like Tommy Edman at the plate right now. That's where I put lemon lime. I don't mess. Here's the other thing, though. I realized I don't really mess with new Gatorade flavors. Like, I like red. If I'm going to get a Gatorade, I'm going to go get a red Gatorade. So my other question, though, have you tried the Gator, what do they call it? Gator Light, like the electrolyte Gatorade that's like basically Pedialyte, but it's Gatorade flavors. Have you tried these?
Is it like Propel?
No, it's like Pedialyte. It's like pumped full of electrolytes. It's disgusting. I think it tastes like Pedialyte. I was hoping it would taste like Gatorade. It tastes like Pedialyte, but I had some people tell me that they really love Gator Light when I said that stuff is vile. So I wasn't sure if you would try that.
No, I haven't tried that. I drink Propel once in a while. I like Propel for that sort of
you like Propel?
Thing. Yeah, I like Propel.
See, I'm out on Propel. I don't know if this is a hot take. I would take vitamin water over Gatorade, like 1,000 out of 1,000. Yellow vitamin water, elite yellow vitamin water.
See, the thing for me with Gatorade, I don't drink Gatorade very much. That's why I go for Propel, is because Gatorade is so chock full of sugar. It's basically like drinking a soda. So I try not to go after Gatorades. And like Propel is a good thing for me when I'm going to hit the batting cages or something, I'd like to have a Propel with me instead of Gatorade because sports science fact, the sugar in regular Gatorade, instead of the electrolytes making you less likely to cramp, the amount of sugar that they have in there increases your chances of cramping usually. So it's not the sideline Florida Gators thing that they advertise it or like it used to be because there's so much sugar.
Yeah, there you go. I'm such an old man. Gatorade, I'm with you. And maybe it's because I like vitamin water, which is less sugary, but it's like I almost water down Gatorade when I drink it now. It's like I need to mix in some water just to spread that out. So there you go. Vitamin water, 1000 OPS, elite from JRM. Couldn't agree with you. Where are you at? Okay, so rank these then. Powerade, Gatorade, Propel, and vitamin water.
See, I don't drink vitamin water like almost at all. And that's not out of I don't like it. I just don't. So I think that would have to be fourth just out of I don't drink it. Propel would be my number one, Gatorade number two, Powerade three. And then, like I said, vitamin water is kind of a DQ instead of a regular fourth place because I don't drink it.
Yeah, Propel I think is not good. So I'm out on Propel. Not because I don't drink it, because I just don't like it. Powerade would be third, Gatorade would be second, and vitamin water a clear number one. So there you go. That's what I got. Yeah, some crazy rankings there. Dr. V, Conforto, got a Gordo, and damn it, Teo to left. There you go. We appreciate the super chat. And maybe you might get your wish. We suggested a couple outfielders they could trade for. So there you go. Folks, that will do it for us on this Thursday night. As always, we appreciate you joining us. I will be back on Sunday with Anthony Witrato. I will be off next Tuesday and Thursday, but we will still have shows. So if you have not already, please subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, go ahead, check us out there. DodgerBlue.com, all the written content you could ever need about the Dodgers, Dodger Blue 1958 on social media as well. That is Bruce Kuntz. I am Jeff Spiegel, folks. Enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers, and yes, still champs.